Yesterday we learned how to solve systems by graphing, okay, with the point of intersection, which is an ordered pair. Our answer is still going to be an ordered pair. However, today we're going to learn how to solve a system by substitution. Your vocabulary word when you walked in was substitution method, which is a process for solving systems by solving one equation for a single variable. So, our steps for solving system of equations by substitution, or the substitution method, is we solve one equation for a single variable, so either x or y, okay? Then we take that expression. So for example, if we solve for y, it'd be like y equals 3x plus 4. So we're going to take this expression and substitute it into the other equation for y, okay? That other equation. Okay? Then we're going to solve for the variable, whatever variable is left over. In this case, it would be x. Then we're going to take that answer, that value, and substitute it into any equation and solve for the other variable. Okay? So we're going to be doing two substitutions. Okay? And I'll show you that now. Okay. So both of these equations are already solved for y. So I don't need to do my first step where it says to solve for a single variable, because they already are. I'm going to take, it doesn't matter which expression, I'm going to take this first one here, okay, and I'm going to substitute it in for y into my other equation. So we're going to substitute it in for y. So instead of y, I'm going to have 4x plus 7. Okay, so that means I'm going to have 4x plus 7 instead of this y equals negative 3x. Okay, once I substitute it into the other equation, like I just did, I'm going to solve for the variable, x. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides and get 7 equals negative 7x. Then I'm going to divide by negative 7. So x is going to equal negative 1. Okay, now that I know x, I need to solve for y. You can select either equation. Which one do you guys want to use, the top or the bottom? Bottom is probably easier, it's smaller. So I'm going to take this value here, and I'm going to substitute it in to either equation. So I'm going to just do this second one here. It looks easier. So instead of x, I'm going to have negative 1, because that's what my x value is. So 3 times negative 1 is, or negative 3 times negative 1 is 3. So now that I have my x and I have my y, I can write my ordered pair. Negative 1, 3. And that is my answer. You should be writing this down. I should see everyone writing. So we're taking one of our equations and making sure that it's solved for a single variable, which both of these ones are. I'm taking the expression, what it's equal to, and substituting it into the other equation for that value. So this one is solved for y already. I'm substituting 4x minus 7 into my other equation for y. So that makes this 4x plus 7 equals negative 3x. Then all that I'm doing is solving for x, which we've spent forever doing. Then once I get x, I'm going to substitute it into either one of my equations and solve for y. Okay, so neither of these equations are solved for a single variable, but you see how my second equation, it has an x by itself? That's going to be the one that's going to be easier to solve for. If there's a single variable, that's going to be the one that's going to be easier to solve for. So I have x plus 2y equals 2. So I'm going to solve for x. So I'm going to subtract 2y from both sides I'm going to have x equals 2 minus 2y. Okay? And that was my bottom equation. Okay, so I need to substitute 2 minus 2y in for x on my top equation. Okay? So we're going to substitute in 2 minus 2y in for x. So instead of x, I'm going to have 2 minus 2y. Okay? So that means that's going to be 3 parentheses 2 minus 2y plus 4y equals negative 4. So if I was going to solve like a normal equation, I'd have to distribute. So I'm going to get 6 minus 6y plus 4y equals negative 4. And negative 6y plus 4y, negative 2y. Subtract 6 from both sides. So I'm going to get negative 2y equals negative 10. And then I'm going to divide by negative 2. This is solving equations. I'm moving fast here because we've solved equations already. So y equals what? What's negative 10 divided by negative 2? 5. So now that I have my y, I need to find x. Well, here we already solved for x, so all I have to do is substitute in my y. So that means I'm going to have x equals 2 minus 2y, but instead of my y, I'm going to substitute in 5. So I'm going to have x equals 2 minus 2 times 5. So that's going to be x equals 2 minus 10. And what is 2 minus 10? Okay, so my ordered pair is going to be negative 8, 5. I could have substituted into the original equations as well. Doesn't matter. Because the second substitution, you can substitute it into any equation. Okay? That has an x or the other value. Yes.
Will it be the same for
Hmm? I would get negative 8 for any of these. Okay, so my first step is to solve for a single variable. So my top equation is already solved for y, so I don't need to do that step. So I'm going to substitute in 3/4 x plus 2 into my other equation and for what? And solve for y, so I have to substitute in for y. Okay? So instead of y, I'm going to have 3/4 x plus 2. So I'm going to have 3/4 x minus, parentheses, 3/4 x plus 2 equals 4. Because I'm substituting in 3/4 x plus 2 in for y. So I have to distribute this negative sign. So I'm going to have 3/4 x minus 3/4 x minus 2 equals 4. And 3/4 x minus 3/4 x is 0. And 2 minus 0, or 0 minus 2 is negative 2. So does negative 2 equal 4? No. So this is no solution. Or it's the 0 with the line through it. That's how it is on your answer key. Okay, you can stop there. It's no solution, I can't go any further. These we have parallel slopes, so they do not intersect. Alright, my first step is to, did I skip one? No. My first step is to solve for a single variable, okay? So, are either of these already solved for a single variable? No. So I need to pick one to do. It doesn't matter really which one you do. You want to do the top or the bottom? Top? Sure. And do we want to solve for x or y? Y, because it's kind of by itself. It wouldn't matter though, we can solve for either. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. And get negative y equals 13 minus 3x. Is y by itself yet? No, there's a negative in front of it, so I have to divide by -1 or multiply by -1. So then I'm going to get y equals negative 13 plus 3x. Now what do I need to do? Substitute it. Am I going to be substituting it into the top equation or the bottom equation? Bottom, because it's the other equation. We already used the top for this part. So I'm going to substitute just this expression in for what? Y, because it's solved for y. It's telling me that y equals this. So that's why I'm substituting it in for y, because it's solved for y. So that means I'm going to have 2x plus 2 parentheses. I'm going to be substituting in for y. So negative 13 plus 3x equals negative 10. So now what do I need to do? Distribute. So what is 2 times negative 13? And what is 2 times 3x?
6x.
Okay, now what do I need to do? Combine like terms, so 2x plus 6x is? Now what do I need to do? Add 26 is inverse operation. So what is negative 10 plus 26? 16. Now what do I need to do?
Divide by 8.
Divide by 8. So what is x equal? 2. So now that I have x, I need to find y. I already solved for y though. So I can substitute this in for my y equation over here. Because it doesn't, I can substitute x into this equation up here, this equation down here, or this over here. Because I already solved for y here, I'm going to choose this because it's already all nice and neat and that's what I'm looking for. So that means it's going to be y equals negative 13 plus 3, and instead of x, I'm going to put in what? 2. So 2 times 3 is?
6.
And negative 13 plus 6 is?
-7.
So now that I have x and I have y, what is my ordered pair?
2 and -7.
2, -7, and that is my answer. Okay, we have one more slide. Emily, what is my first step? Solve for a single variable. It can be x or y, whatever's easiest. So do I want to solve for x or y?
Y.
Y, and do I want to use the top equation or the bottom equation?
Top.
It really doesn't matter, but the top has y by itself, so, I mean, this one would be easy too, but it doesn't really matter. So I'm gonna take my 2x plus y equals 6, I'm gonna solve for y. So I'm gonna subtract 2x from both sides. So y is gonna equal what? Or you could have put 6 minus 2x. It doesn't matter in this equation to get it into y equals mx plus b. So now I'm going to take this expression and substitute it into which equation? The first one or the second one? Second one, because I already used the first one. We have to make sure we do the other equation. And what am I substituting it in for?
Y.
Y. Let's solve for y. So that means it's going to be 2 parentheses negative 2x plus 6 equals 12 minus 4x. So what do I need to do first? Distribute. So I'm going to get negative 4x plus 12 equals 12 minus 4x. So I need to isolate my variable by moving it to one side. So I'm going to add 4x to both sides. And I get 12 equals 12. Does 12 equal 12? Yeah. So what do you guys think this is? Infinitely many. Infinitely many solutions, or all real numbers, or identity, or I don't remember the other one. But on your answer key, I believe it says IMS, infinitely many solutions.